This project envisions potential futures spinning out of the lines of thought present in Rainer Banham's The Architecture of the Well-Tempered Environment and A Home is Not a House. By pushing many of his ideas to their at least semi-logical conclusions, we can learn about the respective shortcomings and advantages of such approaches. Specifically, the project has latched on to the structure versus power dichotomy of environmental control methods, which is presented to us initially in chapters 12 and 13 of The Well-Tempered Environment. And it also deals with the prototypical bubble Banham and Delegray create in A Home is Not a House. Initially, the two polarities of structure and power were used to represent opposing futures, imagining what would happen if one ideology was followed unwaveringly. The final narrative combines the two approaches into one imagined timeline, placing us in the shoes of a character reflecting on the state of the world a few centuries down the line. I've approached this as somewhat of a world-building exercise, rather than seeking to develop a singular, refined condition. The narrative is trying to deal with critical social and technological issues Banham holds very dear. For instance, the redefinition of common practices of dwelling, lifestyle, and the domestic that arise from the idea of a non-existent or non-enclosed house. What would a society with that kind of radical freedom look like? What would the consequences be for those who are inevitably unable to participate? Or perhaps, how do we balance technological progress and comfort with our stewardship of the environment? Will we forgo one for the other? Hopefully the narrative will speak to some of those questions. Our story takes place in a barren, post-climatic collapse landscape, somewhere around about southern Illinois. Most of the Earth's one-time population has shipped out following extreme political, ecological, and cultural catastrophes, and are now based around a nearby Lagrange point. Those that have remained on Earth largely dwell in subterranean bunkers prepared before the fall of the last climatic regime to be completely passive and completely self-sufficient. A new revitalization project has just begun, made possible by new advances in ionic attraction and fusion power. These ionic conditioning units have begun to re-terraform and recolonize Earth. Currently only available for the exceedingly wealthy, the denizens of the bunkers have provided much of the workforce to allow them to live their idyllic lifestyle in a lush new Earth. Our protagonist is a maintenance worker, raised in a stasis colony, now working on an ionic conditioning unit.
It's been 3 years since I left my old job, and my home. Keeping the stasis colony running was so much easier. It makes you wonder, are these new ionic units really worth it? A 5-person team could keep a whole stasis running no problem, but here dozens of us scurry around like crazed animals fixing things left and right every day. I remember all these rooms like the back of my hand. The living machines in the waste repurposing sector, the solar condensers above the main hall, the artificial sun and the vertical gardens. It all brings back memories. Simpler times, with family close by. I wonder how they're all doing. Maybe it's Stockholm Syndrome or something, but being cooped up in confines like that really does build community. The Lee family lived below us, they always took much better care of their gardens than we did. The Smiths were above us, I remember they reached in their fiber optics for warmer light temperature. The Johnsons were next to them too. Probably our closest friends. Their kids always came over to draw at night. And then our unit. I hope little brother and sister aren't missing me too much. I took this job for their sake after all. I never thought I'd miss the soft green glow of the algal bioreactor, but there was something comforting about it. The green light from the screens in the control room just isn't the same, it's too harsh. Ah well, seems like the light is calling. Back to work. I'll check the atmospheric distribution network first. Seems like the systems are running properly. Argon levels are a little low, I'll have to turn that up. Oxygen is also off by 0.5%, but that should fix itself by morning. Nitrogen looks good. The ion field readings are stable, but I think they were due for inspection anyway. That sure was a close call. Thank God I can finally breathe. The transformer core almost overheated. I can't believe 3 of the 9 brushing spindles got fried at once. Fucking ridiculous. I should report whoever was on shift yesterday. I think the attractor coils looked fine, the readings on the condensing chambers are a bit high, 2 bar is pushing it, but I can leave them until tomorrow. I wonder what it's like to sit underneath this thing without a care in the world? They advertise these things like it's heaven on earth, frolicking about in a garden of Eden. I suppose it sure beats being cramped up on a station by the Lagrange point. Even if they did have luxury models. I really don't know how to feel about these wondrous machines. It's my job to keep them running, but I barely understand how the really complicated bits even work. I can't believe the OM Corporation got the idea from some guys who had been dead for centuries. What were their names again? Benham, Fuller, Egret, something like that. I can barely imagine what life is like down below me. All I had ever known before starting this job was near total enclosure. Maybe I'll go sit outside once I'm done here. It's such a shame the resettlement has to start like this. The rich get to live without bounds, amongst nature, while we toil inside these ever-constricting walls to keep them there, always one glitch away from returning to dust. I heard one of the other ionic conditioning units failed last week, and to a really typical issue too. I wonder if the attendant let the machine fail on purpose. I should be sad that so many people died. But really, I'm not sure I care that much. I feel more pain for the plants. Look at all of them down there. Not a care in the world. It really is like those old paintings I saw of vermin orgies. This is really our future society? I can't tell if I'm jealous or not. I could just stop doing my job anytime. I'd go down too, but at least I'd get all of them back. It's no wonder my family chose to stay in Bunker 4. They could have come with me here. It's not much better, but at least I get to breathe fresh air. But they were probably right. There's no point in trying to move up. When you don't have much, perhaps it's best to hold on to what you do have rather than gamble it on a fleeting dream. Whatever happens, I choose to believe in the work I'm doing. They say this is the only way to make our ancestral home habitable again, and at least to some extent it seems to be working. Looking out from this point, I almost ignore the other humans and focus only on the other terrestrials. I can only hope that at some point, sometime, we will all live here together again.